So I've mentioned this before in a couple of previous videos, but I think it's time we actually delve into this and some of the rumors surrounding it and just actually get right into the thick of this. Because this person, who is responsible for the destruction of a once beloved franchise and the death of a once very successful studio, has now, as is the trend with this type of people, managed to once again fail upwards. Maybe not once again for her, but it's a trend. It happens constantly. These people will show up, demolish a beloved franchise, and then move on to be handed a new thing for them to break. And it's absolutely abhorrent. I think it's one of the worst facets of this industry, and genuinely, unless it gets fixed, we will continue to see these major properties fail. We will continue to see these franchises that we love and that we adore and that we've grown up with get turned into absolute dog shit. And so, I want to take time to talk about it to some extent, and let's see what's been happening. Apparently, Corinne Bush herself is now being hired on by Wizards of the Coast for Skeleton Key Studios after leaving BioWare. So, in a move that has sparked immediate controversy, because of course it did, and proved that it's more than possible to fail upwards in the gaming world, I mean, it's been more than proven, but continue. Wizards of the Coast has reportedly hired Dragon Age the Veilguard director Corinne Bush to work at its newly formed Skeleton Key Studios. This development, first reported by Diversity and Dragons, and later confirmed by YouTuber SmashJT, suggests that the Veilguard director has quietly landed a new role despite producing the most notorious bomb in BioWare's long-running RPG history. And for those of you who are still working under the impression that Veilguard was somehow given unfair expectations, the idea that 3 million copies sold in 3 months was way too much, there's no way it could have done that, you're delusional. Completely delusional. You have no idea what you're talking about, and you don't belong in this fandom whatsoever. You're not a part of it. You don't belong here, go somewhere else. Why do I say this? Well, quite simple. Dragon Age Origins sold that much. Dragon Age 2 sold that much. Sold 2 million copies in the first month. Dragon Age Origins sold 3 million in 1 month. The Ultimate Edition. And Inquisition, I believe it was, I think it was the fastest selling one by far, their most successful launch ever, and I think it was about 1 million within the first week, and over 12 million over its entire launch cycle. Right, so having the expectation that Veilguard was going to do even better, completely reasonable, and it should have, but it didn't, because well, what are you going to do, right? When you don't know what you're doing, what are you going to do? You're going to fuck it up. But anyway, let's continue. Bush left BioWare shortly thereafter, claiming that it was a voluntary move. Probably it was. This came just before BioWare gutted the entire studio, laying off most of the activist writers who worked under Bush on Veilguard. Not going to talk about the idea of activist writers. I don't care if you're an activist or not. I don't care if you're putting your personal beliefs into the game or not. I care that you're making a good game. And if your only priority is, in fact, the activism, you're almost certainly not going to make a good game. But that doesn't mean that you can't make a good game. Baldur's Gate 3 was one of the wokest games out there. Amazing game, right? Really well written, really enjoyable, regardless. According to SmashJT, an anonymous source within Wizards of the Coast discovered Bush's name listed in the company's internal team's organization chart. I'm not pleased about this turn of events. No one could be, because it basically means that whatever project is put under her, she's going to destroy it. But in the image above, we can see Corinne Bush listed as part of the Skeleton Key crew right here, under the title of Game Director. Right. So, this is talking about Veilguard. Yeah, she's joined. And the point of this is that, unfortunately for all of us who enjoy video games and who want video games to be good, we are now going to continue receiving products from Corrine Bush. This is just another step in a long line of mistakes by these major studios who care about one thing and one thing only. And that one thing and one thing only is to make money and to make value for their shareholders. The problem with that idea is that video games are an art form. You cannot engage in an art form exclusively for profit because then that art form crumbles. We all know that that's how it works. It's why all of these massive studios who have tons of advertisement, who have massive audiences built into their products, keep failing. They sell 1, 2, 3 million copies, and it's not enough because they put too much money into it, because they're paying too many people, because they're paying the wrong people, because they're doing the wrong things, they're using their money wrong. They're doing everything wrong, and they do not know what they're doing. And because of that, we keep getting bad products. Now, I've heard reports of, well, not reports, rumors. Rumors that she's actually going to be working on Baldur's Gate 4, which I really hope not. I've heard rumors that she's going to be working on something else, but it doesn't matter. She's a game director at Wizards of the Coast now for this Skeleton Key studio, and it doesn't really matter what she's working on because the title of game director should be ever beyond her reach. Having been the director responsible for Veilguard should be a mark on her resume that ensures she never works on another game again. Veilguard was terrible. It wasn't just terrible from the perspective of just any games, because as a game, it was a 6 out of 10, right? The combat wasn't terrible, it was okay, it was mid, the story was meh, and it didn't really have much else besides that. It didn't have fun companions, it didn't have amazing character designs, it looked kind of generic, and at the end of the day, whatever, right? It basically wanted to have everything in its aesthetic, and instead of making a standout aesthetic that people could look at and go, wow, this is really cool, this reminds me of this reminds me of that, this really feels like, Dragon Age. No, instead, it was nothing. It actively antagonized previous fans, and it made no effort to, draw in new fans that were actually interested in games. And that's what we keep seeing on all of these other franchises that don't actually care about making an experience that you, the player, can engage with. Instead, they make an experience that someone else who isn't going to play the game, who isn't going to buy the game, because if they did, these games would be successful, right? But they're not going to buy the game. And if they do, there's not enough of them, so they shouldn't be the audience that you reach for. But they're activists. They're people who don't care. They're people who only care about the activism. But that's the problem with Veilguard. The problem with other studios is that they keep hiring the wrong people. And that's the thing that I'm harping on for this video. This video is entirely me getting angry about them not understanding that when somebody fails this hard, and they fail they had to fail every single day for the 10 years that Veilguard was being developed. Now, I don't care that she wasn't responsible for the 10 years. She was responsible for the final product. And she was there for, I think, 6 years in the current position, which means she was responsible for Veilguard for 6 years. Which means, yes, she's 100% responsible, because she's the director. It should fall to her. Yes, you're getting paid the biggest salary. That means you're responsible. That means you suffer the biggest consequence for the failure. That's how it works. You get the biggest benefits, but also the biggest responsibility. And it seems as though these people in power always tend to fail upwards. I'm sure you could come up with a million different examples, maybe not a million, but you can come up with a ton of different examples about how this one person who was responsible for a game, Neil Druckmann, and they just fucked it up completely, and somehow that results in them getting promoted. What? Nobody liked that. Oh, but it was kind of a commercial success. It kind of made just enough money to pass. Yeah. Did people like your game? No. Was it controversial? Yes. Okay, maybe you fucked up. Maybe you didn't do a good job. Maybe, just maybe, you need to think about what you did a little bit more rather than just go, haha, big success. It is impressively stupid that we keep seeing this done, because it's impossible that any studio whatsoever it's impossible that any studio whatsoever would ever consider making this same mistake for any other product that isn't media driven. And it's why it's so confusing to me that we keep seeing this in games, in movies, in entertainment in general. It doesn't make sense. You expect that what is rewarded is competency. But in AAA studios, it seems as though what is rewarded is not that. What you see in these massive studios is emotional manipulation of the audience, or failed attempts at it, are what is rewarded. The most ideologically driven people are the ones who rise to the top, and then they crash the franchises every single time, rather than looking to the indie game sphere and massive breakout successes like Witcher 3, which CDPR was an indie game all the way up until Witcher 3 came out. They made something like Cyberpunk, which I still think is amazingly written. Yeah, it had its flaws, but it's so amazingly written, man. Kingdom Come, Baldur's Gate 3, all of these games that are smash hits, 10 out of 10 games that define generations of gaming, that are going to be classics. Even 20, 30 years from now, people are still going to be playing them. And instead of looking to those and thinking, okay, what made this game so successful? And realizing that it's about philosophy, it's about caring, it's about understanding, it's about knowing, they just go, oh, it had crafting. Oh, it had open world. Oh, it had colors. Oh, it had dodge rolls. Oh, it had, sex scenes. And so that's what we need in our game. And it shows a lack of understanding of the fact that they are working with an art form. And the more you lack that understanding, the more you will be distanced from your audience. You have games like Stellar Blade, which got insane amounts of hate for the very sin of having an attractive female protagonist. And yes, the female protagonist was really attractive, and yes, that's all people talked about. But the game was good. And that's why it was so successful. Because it was successful. Sure, it didn't make amazing sales. It wasn't like top 10 games of all time, but it made more than enough money to be successful. And that's all it takes, right? For the game to be successful. You keep the budget down, you make something that people want to buy, and people will buy it. Look at Wukong. Pure action-driven game. It was all about the story of Wukong, or apparently you're not actually playing as Wukong. I don't know. I haven't played the game yet. I'll get around to it. But it all comes down to, what are you trying to do? And if what you're trying to do is anything other than make a really good game, and I don't care what you're going to say you're trying to do, because almost all of these people are saying, we really just want to make a good game. There's some that are stupid, and they say, we really just want to, put out this message. And those people are stupid because they don't understand that, nobody cares. Because if they cared, the game would be successful. But it's not, because nobody cares. The people who just want to put out a good game, and they're okay with everything else, right? Yes, the game is going to have a story. Yes, that story is going to have some amount of morality to it, because that's just how things work. But when you're trying to make a good story more so than selling a message, you end up falling into things that are going to make sense to everyone, things that are going to be efficient at reaching everyone in your audience. That's why Lord of the Rings was so successful. That's why Witcher was so successful. Everybody can understand Geralt's plight in that game. Everyone gets it. Last of Us 1, not 2. That game was shit. Last of Us 1 was pretty good. But all of these other games that have these amazing stories, what they have between them, the similarity that they all have between them, is a game director who cared. Hell, look at a game like Helldivers, which is exactly that forever game that all of these studios want. By having a game director who cares, by having, developers who care, who want to make a good game, yeah, they stumbled at the start because they were kind of like nerfing all the weapons and people stopped having fun. But when the games, the charts started to go down and they started to realize, okay, people are actually not liking this direction, they said, okay, what is that people really want? They want big bad monsters, big dangerous monsters, but then they also want to have the tools to destroy those monsters. And that's all it takes, right? You give a big, red, giant, fire-breathing dragon, roar, and it's breaking all the things, and it'll kill you in one hit. But you have a sword of dragon slaying. So you use the Sword of Dragon Slaying, and you pick up the Sword of Dragon Slaying, and you hit the dragon with it, and you hurt the dragon. Oh my god, the dragon's hurt. That's so cool. I feel like I matter. I feel like this Sword of Dragon Slaying means something. Amazing, right? And then you have games like Veilguard, where it's like Sword of Dragon Slaying, and you pick it up, and it does nothing specific against dragons. It just has like random stat numbers, and it's just a bunch of like gibberish numbers thrown on screen to distract you from the fact that the game is so shallow that you can honestly beat it with nothing on, because the game doesn't offer a real challenge. And when the game is that shallow, the only thing that can be explained, the only thing that can be gleaned from that is the fact that at the end of the day, the devs were shallow. The vision was shallow. Everything about it was shallow. And that's the only way that I could describe someone like Corinne Bush and her being hired on to Wizards of the Coast to continue being a scourge upon any gaming franchise that is put in front of her. Shallow. The decision was shallow. Her leadership is shallow. Her vision is shallow. And whatever game she makes, it's going to be shallow. I'm really disappointed with Wizards of the Coast, but they've pretty much done nothing but disappoint their fans and everybody else in the gaming industry, so I guess I'm not surprised. Just sad. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know I didn't enjoy making it, but it's something that had to be made, and it's something that I felt like I needed to say. So, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know, tell me the game director that you know should not have been rehired after their major failure, but they still were, and they went on to fail again, and they continued to, rise in the industry. You let me know of any cases you know, and you know what? It can be anything other than gaming, like somebody who just failed really hard, nobody liked them, and they keep getting better and better positions. It can be anybody. It can even be a streamer. San. Anyway, subscribe, follow the Discord, follow the Twitch, because I stream every day. If you follow the YouTube as well, I also stream on YouTube. So, you can only you can follow one, or you can follow the other, or you can follow both. I appreciate it if you follow both. Please follow both. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Cheers. Followed both.